Welcome to Wine Soundtrack USA. Listen to the passion with which producers narrate their winery and their world in 30 answers. Discover their stories, personalities, and passions.
Hello, friends and listeners of Wine Soundtrack. This is Allison Levine, and today I'm sitting in the heart of downtown Los Angeles in the winery and tasting room of Angeleno Wine Company with co-owners Jasper Dickson and Amy Luftig Viste. Amy, Jasper, welcome and tell us about Angeleno. I mean, it's not a typical place to have wine.
Yeah, it actually used to be. It's a little known fact that California winemaking actually began here in downtown Los Angeles. So there used to be over 200 winemakers in downtown LA. We're one of the only ones down here now, certainly the latest and since, Prohibition era. And we are located in a little part of downtown Los Angeles called Mission Junction, which is otherwise known as North Chinatown.
So tell me about how Angeleno Wine got started and what you guys are doing here.
We started making wine, focusing on Angeleno, focusing on fruit from around Los Angeles in 2015. Me and Amy had known each other for a fair amount of time at that point. I used to work at a store called Silver Lake Wine, not far from here, for about 10 years. And her and her husband and our friends would always come in the store and we'd hang out. And she used to have this wine tasting group called the Bottle Babes. And they would come in and do tastings every Tuesday. And she would bring me free pizza. And I decided
that's how you became friends.
Yeah, I decided that she'd be a good person to hang out with because there'd be pizza around.
And there still is.
And there still is. Like it works true to this day. And so we got together, and I was making wine commercially at a friend's winery up north, and kind of bringing it down and selling it here, but not from LA grapes at the time. And we pretty much just got drunk over mimosas at brunch one day and said, let's start a winery in Los Angeles. And that was the initial impetus, is orange juice and sparkling wine.
And so starting a winery in Los Angeles is one thing, but sourcing fruit from Los Angeles is a whole other thing, because a lot of people start wineries in Los Angeles and they source fruit from the Central Coast. What made you decide to pick fruit from Los Angeles County, and where exactly are you getting fruit from?
So the main place to go to the beginning of the question, why LA County? To us, it was really important that we did something that was local to here. Like, this is where we live. This is the city that we love. And we really wanted to do something different too, do something that was fun, that was kind of like the Wild West, so to speak, until we started getting into the history that Amy alluded to earlier, where we found that actually this used to be a hotbed of winemaking and wine growing. And that really kind of, I think, wanted to make us dig deeper and to find some local fruit and give this idea of local wine to Los Angeles once again. And the main vineyard that we work with currently in the area is this little vineyard called the Alonso Family Vineyard. It's about a 45-minute drive northeast of here, east of Santa Clarita, if you guys know where that is, or just outside of Agua Dulce. And it's farmed by this guy named Juan Alonso, who's originally from Galicia, northwest Spain. And one of the very cool things he did is that in the mid-90s, he completely illegally brought in all these awesome cuttings of these different rare grapes that grow in the western part of Galicia, where he's from, in the Minho region, that's right by the Portuguese border. And so some of these are like grapes you'll see a little bit in Portugal, like in the Vinho Verde region, and some of them like regular Galician varietals like Mencia and Albarino and Treixadura, Loureiro, Godello, Caíño, Susan, all these kind of really cool things. And Juan's definitely a character. Mm-hmm. Amy, I'm sure you have something else to add about Juan and the vineyard there.
He's a sweet dude.
Well, so vineyards people aren't familiar with, from a region people aren't familiar with, and obscure varieties in many ways. I mean, not obscure if you know Spanish and Portuguese wine. So tell me a little bit about how much wine you're producing and what are the different varieties you're working with.
Yeah, so the grapes that we get from LA County by and large are Spanish. So the main ones, Grenache, Tempranillo. We get Albarino. Jasper mentioned some of the kind of lesser known whites, Treixadura, Godello, Loureiro. And then we will on occasion source some cool Spanish varietals from outside the Alonso family vineyard when we can find them. So we have found Graciano, and we've worked with that. There's actually even some non-Spanish grapes in Juan's vineyard as well that we work with. We pull a great Syrah out of his vineyard, actually a Cab Merlot blend. So we a Caíno and Chardonnay. We make a sparkling wine out of Chardonnay and Moscato. So he has quite a diversity of grapes, and it makes it really fun to experiment with.
So you're sourcing primarily from his vineyard.
Yeah.
What's your total case production?
It's just under 2,000 cases all in now.
And at the current time, I mean, obviously people can come here and taste, but where else are your wines available?
Yeah, well, we're distributed throughout the state by a company called Springboard. And down here in LA, the Silver Lake Wine and Everson Roy stores have it. K&L has carried our wines. The Wine House over on the west side, High-Low in Culver City. Venice Beach Wines over in Venice is a great little shop. And we're mostly at a lot of restaurants and wine bars. That's kind of our main thing.
Outside of California?
Nothing outside of California yet. Yeah, that is kind of like the next step. But we're so small with production and everything that we're just kind of building on that. But we'd love to. I mean, I would love to get out to New York and Chicago and be in these really great food cities and just be a part of the conversation.
And you can ship, of course, if people want.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So tell me something. I don't know who wants to answer this first, but Jasper or Amy, what is your first memory relevant to wine?
I think you should go. It started your whole thing.
Yeah, well, my first memories of wine was going. So I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area, and my dad was super into wine, and we'd always go as a kid, just me and him. We'd go to Sonoma and go wine tasting back in the 80s. And I mean, he would go wine tasting, and I would just hang out. And I still, even though there was nothing for me to do, I still loved it. Like, we'd always go to the Sonoma County Fair, which was always super fun. And you just like the smell of like walking into a winery was always like huge with me. And of course, when I was like 5 years old, like he let me have like a little sip of, his glass to see what was going on. And yeah, I thought it was so cool. But even back then, I just thought it was just neat. I mean, obviously you see vineyards and when you walk into a winery, there's just like all the smells and the colors and everything. It's cool.
Yeah. What about you, Amy?
So I grew up in upstate New York in Binghamton, and my grandparents were Italian and from southern Italy. And my grandfather and his neighbors, they grew grapes on their trellises outside their backyard and would make probably terrible wine with it. But when we were kids, we would help them make wine, and we would drink the wine, even though we were kids. And, Italians would agree. It's not that weird to like give wine to your 5 and 6 year old kids. But yeah, we would always help them pick the grapes from the trellises, and, they would be yelling at each other in Italian. And I learned all the Italian swear words that way. But yeah, I just remember, wine being associated with family and joy. And
So as you both got into wine in your own, ways and careers, what is one of the most memorable wines you've drunk, and do you recall the occasion?
There's very few occasions I recall anymore. Amy, why don't you start this one while I work on my recollection process?
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, when Jasper and I were just getting started, we made a wine in my basement. We made a sparkling wine in my basement from Caíno and Chardonnay. Right? Or was it just Caíno? It was just Caíno. And I think we went out drinking, and we started really late, and it started to get really dark. And we literally were in my basement with my laundry machine and making this Caíno and playing with this old, like, crappy basket press. And it just seemed like such a shit show. And I was like, this is going to be terrible. And then one night we were, maybe 9 months later, we were in my backyard. It was Jasper and my husband and I, and we had like the lights on back there, and we popped a bottle of it. And it was just such a beautiful night. And we popped this wine open, and it was delicious. And there you are with your friends and your husband, and it's beautiful outside, and you're drinking the first wine you ever made, and it was not terrible.
I love that. Usually people are talking about some fantastic Burgundy or an Italian wine or champagne. Yeah. Very rarely does someone say the first wine they ever made.
Yeah. Well, I think for me, the thing was I never really had I always hear people talk on various things about like the aha moment or the aha wine. I just never had that, because I just kind of gradually grew up drinking wine, and I remember when I first started working at Silver Lake Wine, I started to get introduced into like wines that were just really good, besides kind of like the random shit I was buying, like really like curated, handmade, crafted, delicious wines. but there were so many good ones, There wasn't one that was like, oh, this is great. I have to do this for the rest of my life, like I'm going to dedicate myself. It was just like, I just love wine and kept drinking and it was always around, you know what I mean? It was never like, I didn't grow up on, well, I kind of did grow up on beer too, but it wasn't like one thing and then like you have that one wine and boom, it was always kind of there and always kind of bubbling and building and.
So both of you are waiting for your aha moment.
It's been a gradual aha. It's been like aha.
Also, when you make wine, you don't get to drink like 1959 Barolos.
So, have you both traveled and tasted wines other places?
Yeah.
Okay. So, in your travels, what is one of your favorite wine regions to drink from?
I mean, for me, hands down, it's Sicily. Part of that is I'm Sicilian, and just tasting those really rich volcanic wines and those funky whites that they make in Sicily, and the fact that you can just get these just like super bizarre, super beautiful, like no wine you've ever had. Reds in Sicily for €10, or €20. And the fact that Sicilians seem to always be drinking their wine outside, it's just, I'll drink wine in Sicily anytime. Al fresco. I think Sicilian wines are the best wines in the world, but I'm also biased.
And you, Jasper?
Yeah, for me, I guess I would say recently, because it always changes and develops, but I always love drinking, and this is not too far off from maybe geographically at least, but Greek wines and Croatian wines, I really, really enjoyed those places. Also, because I was thinking of things that are similar, and kind of climate in some areas like we have here in Southern California. And just a lot of those Greek wines, like as good as Serticos from Santorini and the Mavro Tragano they have and the Xino Mavro are like just really, really cool wines and stuff we're starting to see a little bit more and more. But they're just so phenomenal and so amazing and great food wines. And when I was in Croatia not too long ago, I just loved going through the countrysides there in the Pelješac Peninsula, which is in the south, like where Plavac is like the daughter of what Zinfandel was. And in those wines that they just kind of make in the country, just these great kind of fun, fresh, vibrant, like little spicy wines. And I really love that. And the Poship there is really good too. And
yes.
But if you ask me that same question in like 5 years, it's going to be something else.
Of course, because there's a great world of wine out there. So among all the populations, who do you think drinks the best in terms of quality?
Among the populations, like in what sense?
Around the world, who do you think has the best access to wine in terms of quality?
I feel like we have great access to wine here in Los Angeles. Like Los Angeles is the biggest wine market in the country, like bigger than New York. There's just so many enthusiastic people here, and we have so many awesome restaurants and wine bars, and we're getting great stuff from all over, like every corner of the globe, it feels like. So, I don't know. I feel pretty satiated here. Obviously you can go and find more and more stuff, but I don't exactly know how everything works as far as distribution in the other parts of the world and up. But I'm super thankful for what we're able to access here in Los Angeles, California.
Yeah, it's pretty lucky here. So working with these different grapes that you work with, as well as the wines you drink, do you think there's a such thing as a perfect variety?
For Los Angeles County?
No, just in general.
No, I personally don't think there's a perfect variety. I think thankfully there's a grape and a wine for every mood you're in. And one of the fun things that we can experiment with here in Los Angeles is making different types of wine for different types of events or moods. So, for example, we'll make, like a nice deep, earthy Syrah, and then we'll also make like a low alcohol summertime Zinfandel. And so you can play with so many different types of varieties here and have experiments. But I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think there's a perfect variety.
Yeah,
that kind of negates the whole point of the thing,
Yeah.
So what is your opinion as a small winery or as someone who worked in retail? What's your opinion on wine critics and scores?
To me, once again, I think wine scores kind of negates the whole joy of the thing. And kind of, for me personally, I get the idea that it's simplifying everything for consumer, but I don't think it's actually doing them any justice. You're just getting the profiles of someone who has a blown out palate drinking a shit pot of different over extracted wines and not, all day long. And I think it scares people away from really developing their own mind and their own palate and their own interests and pursuing those interests. So I'm not a huge fan of it personally.
So if we took critics out of the game and space aliens were to land here at the winery, which of your wines would you want to present them with?
Space aliens?
It depends what they were eating.
So I think I would present them with the Albarino. I think the Albarino it's a really fun one to try. It has a lot of, first of all, it's all LA County, and it has this beautiful mix of this like super bright acidity, natural acidity, with this awesome golden color and this really cool texture. And this is probably my favorite wine to serve right now in the tasting room, because people see it and they see this really lovely golden color and they think it's going to be something like, oh, it's going to be a sweet wine, or oh, it's going to be heavy. And it ends up just being this, I think, this really ethereal, really pretty, really light wine with just a lot of structure to it.
So you're saying they like it because it's out of this world?
Oh my God.
Dad joke.
Dad joke. All right, with that, I'm going to drink more beer.
Choose more beer after that one.
Okay, so I know you're drinking beer right now, but as wine drinkers, red, white, or rosé?
I think, once again, it just kind of depends on the execution. I think being in Los Angeles where it's warm a lot of the time, like, probably tend to drink mostly whites and rosés. And Amy and her husband drink a crap ton of sparkling wine, which I think is awesome.
Well, that was my next question.
Yeah.
Still or sparkling?
Yeah, I'm gonna always go for sparkling.
Probably gonna go with
the
sparkling.
toast in my family, like, we've been known to go to Silver Lake Wine and get champagne all the time. And people always like, "What are you celebrating?" And we're like, "Wine has bubbles." That's what we're celebrating.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we're like pretty. And I love we have this really fun sparkling wine that we make. We released it over the holidays called the California Crackler. And it's a Chardonnay Moscato blend. And the Chardonnay, of course, is the body of the wine, gives it its structure. And then the Moscato is just this really cool, like, kind of herbaceous, almost citrusy note. It's not sweet at all. We ferment the Moscato to dryness. And it just gets better and better in bottle. And unfortunately, we only make like 50 cases of it. So it goes pretty quick. But I'm a little partial to our California Crackler.
Anything
That's a good one, yeah.
Anything with bubbles.
Yeah.
So you make a broad variety of wines, and obviously you drink a lot of wine. Do you take any care when you're pairing food and wine? Do you think there are any rules you have to follow, or just you kind of let it go and just enjoy what you want to enjoy?
Yeah, I think there's definitely things that work better together than other things. But what I'll usually do, for me personally, is I'll usually figure out what the hell I want to drink, and then I'll get that, and then I'll figure out what I'm going to cook to pair with the wine. I usually end up working backwards.
Or forwards.
Yeah, or forwards. Yeah, exactly.
And so on those occasions, because obviously you've hung out in your backyard a lot drinking, and I'm sure you've drunk.
How'd you know?
Because you told me. But I'm going to guess that you've drunk a little too much at times. So just curious if you have any secrets of how to deal with hangovers. I'm just waiting for someone to give me the special cure.
Modelo.
Yeah,
a can of Modelo. Like, usually one of us will walk into the winery on winemaking days or even tasting room days and just go right to the fridge and crack a Modelo. And we know what you did last night.
Yeah. Well, that and you look like shit when you walk in the car. Like, it's both a dead giveaway.
Yeah.
So for someone who hasn't tasted your wine yet, what do you think they're missing out on? What would they get? What would be conveyed by tasting Angeleno wine?
Yeah, I would say what they're missing out on is a whole nother place, like a whole nother vibe. Like, there's definitely a very connective tissue through our wines, and what you can see, especially from Juan Alonso's vineyard outside of Agua Dulce. Like, it's just, there's a lot of really fun character to it, and it's just trying another wine from another place and like seeing what that does and how those grapes grow in that area and what kind of wines they make. And it's just another interesting part of the conversation of the whole big picture of wine and being able to have wine from Los Angeles.
Do you spend a lot of time in the vineyard and managing what's going on in there?
Yeah, with Juan's Vineyard, we work closely with him and get up there as much as we can. It's great because it's only 45-minute drive from here, which, before we started doing this, like, some of the vineyards we're working with were like hours away, like you mentioned, a lot of people working with the Central Coast. It's, you can still get up there, but it's a little more of a pain in the ass. This way I can just drive up there and go in, do some cluster thinning or leaf pulling, whatever needs to be done, and come back and still get shit done here at the winery. And
we also pick our own fruit. So
because we're masochists.
Yeah, we're masochists. Well, it's just, I mean, for us, it's just, a lot of people are surprised that we pick our own fruit, but for us, it's kind of the point. Like we go up there, we drop any fruit that we don't like in the field, because this is a super small place. We can't really fit a sorting table here. I mean, the fruit is so good that we can't
afford a sorting table. Too.
we don't need to. We don't need to go into it.
There are financial details.
Yeah. Also, we can't afford a sorting table. No, but there's. I mean, most of the fruit, it looks so beautiful. We don't end up dropping a lot of it, but I don't know. It's just part of being like in the fields. When you've picked it, we have our friends, we have our wine club members come out and pick fruit with us. And for us, it's like the whole point.
Wine Soundtrack, the voice of American wine growers and makers.
So what was your first vintage? What year?
2015.
And so since 2015, you're coming up on 4 years under your belt have you instituted any traditions that you start at the beginning of harvest?
Well, we have one rule.
I was going to say the same thing.
So we don't. I don't know if we have traditions.
It's not limited to the beginning of harvest. Though.
No,
it's 365, 24/7.
We have one rule in the winery, and I want all of you to hear this. If anyone offers to bring beer, we never say no. We always say yes. And the genesis of that rule, which is a very serious rule, is that we were here one night making, I think that was the night we were making our white wine and pressing our wine. And we thought we had maybe a 12-pack or even 24-pack of beer in the fridge. And someone was like, hey, I'm coming by. Can I bring by some beer? And we were like, nah, man, we got plenty. Just come on over. Don't bring beer. And 3 hours later, we were like, oh, shit. Oh man, we're out of beer. And so we have one rule. If someone offers to bring beer,
you say yes.
You say yes.
No matter what.
I don't know if that's a tradition, but it is a rule.
But it doesn't have to do with harvest.
It doesn't have to do with harvest.
It does. Oh.
Usually every year right before harvest, we just go, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit.
There's a tradition.
Yeah.
So you spend time in the vineyards, and we're obviously sitting here in the winery surrounded by barrels, and I know you were topping off today. When you're alone or maybe together in here, do you ever talk to your wine? And if so, what do you say to it?
I talk at the wine, I would say. I don't really talk to it. Usually it's when I stub my toe and oh, God damn it. Wasn't talking to you.
No talking to the wine.
Do you ever talk to the wine?
Or play music for the wine, or no?
We got a piano and a guitar in here, so we play music in here all the time and just sing and hang out. But
yeah.
But just kind of at the wine.
At the wine.
So, what did you guys want to be when you were little? What did you want to be when you grew up?
According to family lore, I told my dad that I was either going to be a Supreme Court justice or a waitress. So I was one of those things.
Good dynamic. You've landed somewhere in between.
After that decision, I went into healthcare. I'm actually still in the healthcare world. I work for a program called My Health LA that provides free healthcare to undocumented workers and low-income undocumented individuals in the county. I've always been in sort of low-income public health, women's health stuff.
Fantastic. So, what about you, Jasper?
I wanted to be a paleontologist because I thought dinosaurs were cool. That was the first one. The first, conceptualization of being something when you grew up. I wanted to be a paleontologist.
And you were working in wine retail. Was that one of your first jobs out of school?
No, unfortunately not. I had a bunch of just kind of random jobs, and when I had moved back to I originally moved to Los Angeles, and then I went back up to the Bay Area for a few months to help my dad work on his house he was getting ready to sell, then moved back to LA. When I moved back to LA, I was playing music full time, and not making a living on it, but playing it full time. And I thought, well, hey, in the background, instead of going from a shit job to a shit job, I want to do something that I'm equally as interested in, or something that I'm passionate about. And I thought, well, wine is really interesting. I had kind of messed around with making wine when I was younger, and trying to how do you make wine, how do you make beer. First thing I ever fermented, this is terrible, was prune juice.
Ooh.
I have no idea why I thought that was a good idea. I was like, I want to do something different. I'm going to make prune juice wine. And the guy at the checkout counter, I don't know, just thought I probably needed to kind of clean it out because I had 3 gallons of prune juice and nothing else. Anyways, what it seemed like a good idea at the time. Yeah, and then so flash forward a few years post prune juice, was trying to figure out what else that would be. And I thought, well, why not wine? And this was in 2008, which was not an ideal time to look for a job apparently. And I had applied to like every kind of wine business in the greater LA area, and nobody was hiring anything. And I kept applying to Silver Lake Wine. I applied there 4 times over 3 months, and finally they hired me.
Persistence pays off.
It worked.
So speaking of hard work and everything like that, what would you say is your proudest moment or accomplishment to date in your work?
That's a good question.
That's a great question.
I mean, you have a long future ahead of you. It's just...
Thank you. I hope so. Yeah. I think the hardest part for us of getting going was finding a space. I actually thought getting money would be the hardest part, but finding a place to actually make this wine was much, much harder than I thought. There's a series of really arcane zoning codes and laws in LA that make establishing a winery here very difficult. It's a hangover from Prohibition. And we put in applications into almost 25 places. I mean, serious applications using real estate agents independently. And we were in lease negotiations many times when we thought for sure we were going to get the space. But once a landlord would learn kind of what it would take to make a alcohol producing establishment in their building, they would always go with the architect or the creative office space. They'd be like, oh, wait, So for me, I think there was this moment when we signed the lease and got keys and opened a bottle of our own sparkling wine, the California Crackler, and toasted with our landlord, who's just been just the most supportive and awesome and just really great human being that we could have ever imagined. That it got really real. Also, we had to pay rent. That got real super fast. I was like, wait a minute, now the money part. Yeah, I think for me, it was just getting the brick and mortar space.
Wow. What about you, Jasper?
I mean, yeah, that was a huge moment. That was a very, very huge moment, yeah. And we actually toasted with that same wine that we talked about before, the Caíno that we made in her basement.
Oh, it wasn't the Crackler?
No, it was the Caíno. Oh. Yeah. I don't know. For me too, like a couple, just to give like another add on to that. When we first did the first crush in here, and we had these macro bins over here fermenting with freshly crushed Tempranillo and everything. I mean, everything was just real at that point. It's like we had the winery, the equipment was here, permitted. I mean, obviously you need that stuff, but who gives a shit about that? It was about like we have a winery, and wine is being made as we speak right now because that's bubbling. It was a really great, a great moment to have because it's as a lot of people know, it's just super hard to have your own winery. Most people that don't come from any money, like both of us, you end up doing custom crush for a really long time, and a lot of people just stay doing custom crush because it's crazy to open your own space. Mm-hmm. And one of the kind of the great things and hard things about Los Angeles is there wasn't any place to really do that. And we wanted to do it here, so we were forced to open our own space. And I think it's just so cool. Like this is our own little palace in which we can create and do our things for better or for worse. We can just exist here and make the best wine that we could possibly make.
I think that's a pretty impressive accomplishment. You're right, because in a post-prohibition world, we live in a very pre-prohibition mentality.
Yeah.
So thinking back to all the influences you've had and things like that, what would you say is one of the best pieces of advice you've ever received?
Yeah, so this one, I know this right away. So I used to work for Planned Parenthood. I was a lobbyist for them for years. And I had this really fantastic life mentor. Her name is Teresa. And she was the legislative director, and I was her intern for for a few months. And I would shadow her as we would go talk to legislators about, medically accurate sex education and abortion rights and all these things. And one day we were supposed to go meet with this legislator, and she couldn't go. And she's like, you would just have to go yourself and meet with this legislator. And I was like, no way, I can't do it. Like, I'm 22 years old. Like, no way I can do this. She's like, you have to. I can't go. You're going to have to go. I was like, we have to cancel. And she looked me in the eye and she said, Amy, the only person that needs to know that you have no fucking idea what's going on is you.
Yeah.
And I carried that with me forever. So thank you, Teresa, wherever you are.
That's fantastic. Well, it's true. What about you, Jasper?
I would say, there's a lot of good little snippets that I've been fortunate to have throughout my life, but probably one of my favorite things is something my old boss, Randy, used to always say, which I don't think he came up with or not, but he earned the term, and he might as well have come up with it because he lived it, and that's the dream is free, but the hustle is sold separately. That's it.
Thanks, Randy, wherever you are.
I know where he is.
So if you could offer a little piece of advice to our listeners today, what would you like to share? Aside from the wonderful advice you carry with yourselves.
With any certain framework or category, or?
As you wish, but
anything.
Anything. But
One of the things that Jasper and I kept saying to each other over and over in the 4-year journey, 3.5-year journey that it took from mimosas to opening a winery was just keep going until someone tells you you can't go anymore. We kept saying that to each other. Like, when we would get all of our applications denied, when we applied to bank loan after bank loan after bank loan and got justifiably turned away, when, people would say, like, you guys are spending way too much time on this. We just kept telling each other, we're just going to keep going until someone tells us we can't.
Until we can't.
Or until we can't. But we knew we weren't ever going to tell each other we couldn't, right? We were just like, if someone else would have to tell us that we can't.
Yeah, but we wouldn't listen to them.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Keep going till you can't go anymore.
Yeah, keep going till you can't go anymore. And so no one's told us yet that we can't keep going. We haven't told each other that. So yeah, keep going till you can't go anymore.
That's great.
Yeah.
So complete the sentence for me. A table without wine is like...
Awkward conversation. Wait, a table without wine... Oh, it's like a table without friendship.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
I would just say a table that sucks.
Yeah. A table
For lack of deeper insight,
A table where Jasper and I are not at the table.
Not present.
It's a table where Jasper and I are not at the table.
So we live in Los Angeles. We're not in our worlds here, but, there's a world of celebrity out there, and the paparazzi like to follow them from time to time. And if the paparazzi were to snap someone sitting in a restaurant from any walk of life, living or deceased, sitting in a restaurant, and in the background of that photo was a bottle of Angeleno wine, who would you want that person to be drinking your wine?
I'd say Robert Smith from The Cure.
I know you would. That's a good one.
I would love it. Yeah, I'm going to go with Robert Smith of The Cure. I'd love him to be drinking wine.
I don't know, man. That's a good question. I got to think about that for a while. I don't know. Maybe Humphrey Bogart.
Humphrey Bogart would be pretty sweet. Yeah, we don't really know too many celebrities. I can tell you who I wouldn't want to drink it. That's an easier question. That's a really easy question.
No, but she didn't bring the easy questions.
No, she didn't.
Good questions.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll move on to another kind of easy question. You're going off to a deserted island, perhaps together, perhaps separately. I'm not setting any rules of what's on this island. It's just a deserted island, and you can take 3 wines with you. Which 3 wines would you take?
Ooh, that was an easy question.
Yeah.
And I know Jasper's sitting there going, I know I'd take beer.
No. So it's a desert island, so it's going to be warm. It's probably tropical. It's going to be a little humid. Do I have an ice chest?
Sure.
Okay.
It's your deserted island, however you want. It's any 3 wines you would... The last 3 wines you'd want to have.
It could be like a deserted island in a cold area, too. Okay. Last 3 wines in general. Oh, shit. I don't know. Right now, for what I'm thirsty for, because I was talking about the Greek Acertico earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I actually, when I was in Greece, I got to try an Acertico from Domaine Sigalas, which is one of the awesome producers there. It was a barrel-aged Acertico from 95, and this was in some year, 2014, and it was awesome. I was incredible how it aged, and that was so delicious, and that kind of got in my mind. So that'd be one.
Here's one of those most memorable wines you've ever drunk. See, it comes out eventually.
Yeah, like I said, the recall is slightly lacking, so it takes a while. But there's so many good, like, just, we both of us love, like, it's a lot of wine people do, like, really just refreshing, greatly balanced Rieslings. They have like a little bit of creaminess, but that great acidity that cuts through the creaminess. And, that's always up there. And I'm a whore for Northern Rhone Syrah. It's kind of like, people always say that too, I know, but like, it's fucking good. It's like, what are you going to do? Like, I love that stuff. So.
Okay. What about you, Amy?
So I'm going to go with a rosé sparkling.
Champagne or?
Yeah, with champagne. Yeah, I'll do. Yeah, in a pinch.
Hey, why not?
In a pinch.
Money's no option. You got your own island.
Exactly. I don't know. I might go with, like, we were talking about the Italian whites, like a Griot or, something with a little structure and kind of funkiness to it. Something to kind of keep the attention going. And then it's hot, so I'm just going to go for volume. I'm going to go for a cheap liter of Gruner. Just go for volume. At that point, if I'm stuck on a desert
that just sounds like a day at your house, though. Desert
exactly.
island.
And then all we need is like the train game or like one of like, and then it's like a Saturday at my house.
And a bunch of wine, that's all it is.
It does sound like a Saturday at my house. Wait a minute, we're not on a desert island anymore. We're just in my backyard playing games.
Well, that's great. You just live that, imagine that life. So you said that you had a previous life or desire or still do as a musician, so you'll enjoy this next game. And since the celebrity you picked is of The Cure, so you might enjoy this as well. So we always play a little game on Wine Soundtrack because wine and soundtrack only naturally sounds like music should play a part. And so many times when we drink, we listen to music, or it makes us, puts us in a mood. Music puts us in a mood and wine puts us in a mood. So of some of the wines that we spoke about today that you like to drink, I want to know what music you would want to be listening to or what it makes you think of. So let's start with your aged Assyrtiko.
Oh, jeez.
What music it makes you think of?
Or what you'd want to listen to.
I put on some Stan Getz, man. Like some just old school, chill jazz. Just kind of ease on into it.
And your sparkling champagne, rosé.
Sure.
I think I'm gonna go with sparkling. I'll just go with the La Via and Rose soundtrack. Yeah. It seems obvious, but it does.
Paints a picture.
Yeah.
And your Northern Rhone Syrah, that slutty wine of yours.
Well, no, I'm the slut. The wine's fine, Let's see. I'd be fun with that if I was at home. Maybe some like Cuban salsa music or something would be nice.
That's a good one.
And with your favorite sparkling, the Kraken?
Oh, the California Crackler. So I think with that one, we're going to put on some old, I'm going to say California. I'm going to put on some old, it's all old now, I'm afraid. I think I'm going to put on some like old country. Like I think, I'm going to do like Marty Robbins. Yeah.
And then we've got a bottle here sitting of your Grenache, the Angeleno Wine Company. What would you want to pair with that?
I don't know. So I think that's pretty, like, it's pretty silky. Like, I think I'm going to put on some, like, maybe some James Brown, like some, like, I'll put some James Brown, something kind of funky, some kind of silky, maybe I put some Motown. Yeah.
Okay.
I like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and last one, which I have in my glass, your Albarino, which really is a beautiful golden color and doesn't really taste what you would expect from the eye. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. But what would you want to be listening to?
You're drinking it, you tell us.
Oh, no, not my game to play. I'll tell you if I agree.
Yeah, all right. Maybe some Louis Armstrong. Ooh. Maybe some Louis Armstrong, Ella Fitzgerald combo.
Ooh. You get that. I was thinking a little more kind of taking that sort of jazz into the, like, I guess, more outdoorsy, because it's hot in summer and it's white wine. I don't know. Yeah. But yes, I know. I'm not going to tell you differently. Okay. What is one winemaking region in the world that's at the top of your list to visit?
That we haven't gone to yet or have gone to?
That you want to go to, whether you've been there or not. Okay. I don't know. That's up to you. If you're a creature of habit or an explorer, I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, for me, I still haven't spent much time in southern France. So I would just love, that's like kind of my go-to just every night is just like these super affordable Rhone blends, or stuff from the Languedoc-Roussillon area, I would love to go through there, go to Cassis or Mandol or all that jazz. Yeah.
I'm going to go to France too. So I read somewhere. I'll meet you. No, I'm on the other, kind of the northwest. Yeah, no, it's too cold in Champagne. No, I'm going to go with the Loire Valley because I read somewhere that you can take these really awesome bike trips through the Loire Valley and go like bike from winery to winery, and just check. And like Loire Valley, I feel like is just a wine region that I haven't really explored too much. Like I just want to know it better. So I want to bike through Loire Valley.
So start planning your trips. And
we'll be on opposite sides of France, okay?
I'll send you a postcard.
Yeah, maybe I'll send you a postcard, but I'll be on a bike.
So you have a harvest to prepare for, and obviously you won't be traveling anywhere quite yet, but people can come and visit you. So can you just remind our listeners where they can find your wines and find you guys?
Yeah, the most fun way to find our wines is to come to the winery. We love having people over. We have open hours right now every Saturday and Sunday. Saturday from 12 to 8 and then Sundays from 12 to 6. And then if anybody wants to come on a different day or do a private tasting, they can just go on our website and email me. But we love doing in-person tastings because it's an opportunity for us to talk about our wines, but also get people's reaction to the wines. And I think one of the most fun parts about having a tasting room is having these people come in either not knowing what to expect or having very low expectations. And one of the comments we get, literally every day we get somebody who tries our wines and they're like, oh, these were actually good. And that's an opportunity to say, we were a region of winemakers. Like it shouldn't be surprising that LA wines would be good. The grapes that used to cover Los Angeles were made into almost 2 million bottles of wine. Now, I don't know if all those 2 million bottles were good. But we were a city,
drinking it.
And exporting it. And it used to be when you would see California wine on a label, you knew it came from LA. So it's just an opportunity to remind people that California winemaking didn't begin in Napa. It began in the very place where they're seated and drinking our wines.
Well, to all of our listeners that are coming to Los Angeles, they don't have to just go to Universal Studios or Hollywood Boulevard or the beach. They can come wine tasting at Angeleno Wine. So Amy and Jasper, thank you so much for joining us today and have a great afternoon.
Thank you. And thank you for the most creative and probably hardest questions we've ever been asked.
Yeah.
That was really fun. Thank you.
I'm glad I could do it.
Yeah, that was really fun.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to a new episode of Wine Soundtrack USA. For details and updates, visit our website, winesoundtrack.com.